So what is up, everybody? Welcome to today's podcast. We are cutting this shit with my good friend, Mr. Dark Phoenix. We're going to be talking about Let There Be Carnage. So Mr. Dark Phoenix is a little bit of our resident Marvel expert. As you know, I'm a little bit more heavier on the DC side of things. So, you know, we're going to be valuing his input. Words are hard today. And
words are hard.
We're going to be keeping this first half spoiler free, and then leading into a little bit more of a spoiler heavy podcast. So with that being said, Mr. Dark Phoenix, why don't you introduce yourself, and then let's dive right into it.
Everybody, I'm Mr. Dark Phoenix. I'm a nerdy, clearly nerdy variety streaming gamer. I love anime, comics. I'm reading a lot of different things right now. I'm reading Marvel, DC, Image, IDW, and a lot of other indie stuff. So just the fact that I'm even here means a hell of a lot to me, because Cody's been like my friend for like a good couple years now, and I just love to cut the shit about comics, and I just love to talk comics with really cool people.
Yeah, I podcast and comics have always been, you know, somewhat of how do I even put it into words? My escape. I love getting just immersed into like different stories and arcs, and just seeing how a character develops into who they need to be. It's inspirational, and then you could see a lot of topics like hidden in comics. You know, yeah. Like how X-Men was towards racism back and different areas you know, of that nature. And I think it's really cool to have that outlet for people to kind of just get lost in.
Yeah, it's always funny when people are always complaining about, oh, I don't want my comics to be political, and I'm like, ugh. Do you not understand that a lot of, like, the first issue of Captain America was him literally punching Hitler in the face?
Yeah, dude.
Like, comics have always been political. Comics have always been like, yeah, they're our escape, but they're also like mirrors of our own world. That's why a lot of the people are so creative with them, and how they're able to like delve into so many things. And like, there was this person on Twitter who was like, "Oh, I hope the MCU doesn't make the X-Men too woke." And everyone's like, "You do know what they were about, right?"
Yeah.
you are we reading the same?
Maybe you just watched the movies?
Yeah, like, do you really think that they don't suffer, especially now that they have their own planet? We can talk about that later.
Yeah. So with that being said, let's go ahead and just dive into Venom: Let There Be Carnage. So right off the rip, we're going to be keeping this part, you know, spoiler free. What was your first initial impressions? What were your thoughts? For anyone that's kind of on the fence of seeing this, what would you say to either push them over or to keep them from seeing it?
So, I will admit, the hour and a half runtime was something that always didn't sit right with me, because... And even like my friend brought it up when we saw it the other night. We saw it last night, when it was just like, you know, we're so used to seeing 2 and a half long movies, that just seeing like an hour and a half movie just feels weird to us.
It's like, what do you do with the rest of your night?
Yeah, I'm like, it's too late for us to go get food, but it's like, now we can't even justify it because we were watching a 2-hour movie. But I really think the hour and a half really just play a lot into who Venom is, because Venom's always been like, if they're going like with like the beginning of things, it's always something like cut to the point. You know, like we know why we're here. Let there be carnage, Venom and Carnage, and also featuring you know, some we'll get to into the spoilery parts. But I do, however, think that my major issue, I mean, I still say go see it. I feel like they did this for one of two reasons. One, because they, you know, unfortunately they're due to the times, you want to get as many people in the seats as possible. So, but I still do feel like the R rating was necessary for this movie. But I think they probably just did that just so they could, you know, because for some reason companies think that Disney and Marvel won't play with them if they don't do, you know, PG-13 stuff. And I do think that the movie was still good. It was still enjoyable. Eddie and Venom's relationship is so good. It's such a good continuation of what happened in the first one.
Did you say,
And
not to interrupt you, you said it was R-rated?
no, I wanted to be R-rated.
Yeah, no. So even with it being a PG-13 rating, I felt it pushed the limits. I mean, even though several scenes had to give you implications of what happened, you knew what was happening, and then we seen the after effects. It surprised me that it actually had a PG-13 title, because there was a lot of carnage there. I said the title. There was a lot of carnage in it, and I was just like, holy shit.
Like, oh my god. Like, and, you know, Woody Harrelson was so great as Cletus Cassidy, and do we know who voiced Carnage?
I have no idea, but on that note, I do want to say this. Woody Harrelson was picked for the role because of his role in Natural Born Killers. They just thought he would be a perfect fit. And I read a little bit of trivia too. He didn't even know the script, so it was a roll of the dice on whether or not he was going to like it. He didn't know the script at all. He just agreed to it.
Yeah.
That was wild, dude.
Just imagine being like, you, here, play this role. Why? Because I said so. Okay.
But yeah,
I suppose.
I felt like he killed it. I loved seeing the serial killer aspect of it. I loved seeing how that like really embraced that character fully, and then just seeing him let loose was phenomenal.
Yeah, I really did love seeing him, and plus, just as you know, as a hilarious thing, I did love that his hair was better in the movie versus versus that Raggedy Annie wig in Venom, because a lot of us were like, "What is that? Who put that on you?" I'm not mad. I just want to talk about it but I just love how Woody just like, because I mean Woody Harrelson's good. I mean he's always been like good in the stuff he's in, but just seeing something like this, and I'm just like, that's why I hope against. I mean, I don't know. I'll touch on this now. We'll bring it up later towards the end, but I really hope that there's like a longer cut for like the home release, because I feel like another half hour, had the movie been R-rated, it would have been like we could have gone more into like his murderous tendencies, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So, not enough of Cletus. All right, let's talk about Eddie Brock. What was your thoughts on his character in this movie, the sequel to Venom, and his character development and all that goodness in between?
I just love their relationship, because a lot of people who don't know a lot of stuff are just thinking that, you know, because like they're a couple. It's just clear their relationship's toxic most times, but there's a definite love there between the two of them. Like when he goes and he's making him like this. That's stuff that the symbiote does for Eddie in the comics. Like he'll wake Eddie up when he has to wake up at a certain time. He'll do like other things for him. And he'll like help him do other stuff, because that's how bonded and how close they are. So
yeah,
the fact that like this is like them showing that, you know, like, you know, the symbiote Venom being like, oh, look in this room, and then let me perfectly remember everything and tell you I'm doing your job. And then when they had them separated and Eddie went to the coming out rave, that's what I'm calling it. I'm not sure if that's what it's called, but that's just what I'm calling it, because it was just a really cool scene of like both of them being separate but coming into their own almost, and then them coming back together and then being a lot stronger than they were separated. And I like that how the movie covered that. There
was a big part where the director Andy like made a note of how there was a coming out in this movie, but then later I guess like sort of retracted it, because a lot of the internet like I guess was not taking it well, because I don't know if like for me, I felt like this movie did so much justice in like strengthening the ties between Venom and Eddie, and like showing you how like they're just like you said, toxic. Like they're perfect for each other without even realizing it, and it's because they're like two like mind. They just keep clashing without realizing like they're perfect for one another. I loved every bit of that. Like, you know, Venom headbutts and breaks his nose. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry, let me fix that. Then he's like, boom. Like, loved it. I think we really needed that, because I don't know, like seeing Venom and seeing like just how everything started. Like this was I would say this was a solid sequel in providing us that relationship bond and connection. Because they're the lethal protector. Like when they started embracing it, I was like, fuck yeah, dude, let's get it. Cause that's when things just started getting heavy.
I'm like, finally, they said the thing. Because, and like, a lot of the internet is like, obviously torn. And I'm just like, this isn't even a thing to be torn on. Like, Eddie and Brock are like, Eddie and Venom, it's just like, there's a clear love there, you know? And however, and I feel like people are getting upset for like no reason. I feel like it's however you personally want. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand this anymore. Where it's like, comics are art. However you, the reader, want to interpret something, that's on you. That's how you see it. So if you want to see them as being in a relationship, that's the answer. If you think it's more of like a bromance, that's the answer. It's not, I'm wondering if it's because,
just who we are in particular, like for me, like I you're saying bromance, and I feel that like I more or less felt like it was them coming to terms with who they are. Bromance fits it perfect. I can see where the relationship aspect of that comes into view as well. But I'm wondering if it's because of our orientations, if that has implications in how we view it. You know what I mean? Because the way you perceive things are going to be totally different than the way I perceive it. And I think that's the beauty of it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is good too, because I mean, and this is where like, I mean, not like the worldwide internet, but this is where like, a back and forth goes. Like, it's all art. It all depends on what you feel their relationship is. And obviously, like Andy Serkis, the director, or like, people higher up, they get the final say. But I mean, for what we're doing, because I mean, even in the comics, like, and people don't like know, people in the comics don't know, people that don't read the comics don't know this, like, they literally have a child together. Like Eddie and Venom literally have a child together, and like Venom gives birth to this child, and it's like, y'all still think they bros now? Because I don't think you can do that with your bro. I'm just saying, like, but it's just really.
Like,
I'm sorry.
At what point? What is Venom at this point? Then it seems like he's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I mean Venom. I mean the symbiotes reproduce, I think, asexually. So really, it's just like it just comes down to like how they feel about the host. Because I mean, like, I cannot wait to see what they do with it going forward. We'll talk about that towards the end. I'm gonna put a pin in that actually, because I don't want to say too much of that as getting into the thing. But the symbiotes really do have to they really do have to bond with you. Like, yeah, I guess they are parasites, but I mean, they have to have a genuine that's why, like, Cletus bonds perfectly with Carnage, and that's why Eddie bonds perfectly with Venom, and everybody else down the line.
Oh my god.
Like everyone else.
Dude,
like,
I loved it. I can't wait till we get to that. Oh man. So let's touch base real quick. Beginning, middle, and end. We'll split it up into the 3 acts. What was your thoughts on the first act, the second act, and the third act? In terms of how it was organic, how the action was kept up, and just everything.
Loved it. I first of all, I don't know her name. The one that played Shriek or Scream. I'm not sure what they're gonna call her. It's gonna be one of the two.
I want to say she was Shriek. This.
I do want to say she was Shriek because
Frances Barrison was Shriek in the comics, from what I understand. I'm not a huge Marvel expert, but I did look it up a little bit. So I want to say Shriek was. Let's see.
Oh yeah. Naomi Harris.
Yeah.
As Frances Barrison, Shriek, Cassidy's love interest. Okay, so
she was a bad bitch.
I love the hell out of her.
Oh man, she was bad, dude.
I was just like, oh my god, she's so, and like they had me feeling bad for them, like, and I was like, okay, why am I feeling bad for this woman? That's just like, she's like her and Cletus were in the same thing together, and they were crazy. And they loved each other, and she's had her powers for a very long time. So I'm not exactly sure how we're gonna like, because I think she's a mutant in the comics. So I'm not sure if they're gonna say that or just say that she's a powered person or whatever. But
you know, let's put a pin in that too, because that is going to be an interesting topic to talk about when we hit our spoiler part of this.
Okay, and then I just loved how well she played Crazy, and I just love how she was just so inept with the role and how I believed everything that was going on. And like Woody Harrelson as Cletus was also amazing because every time he talked to Eddie, it felt like I was watching Making a Murderer.
Yeah.
And
yeah. He was unreal, and I really just liked his violent outbursts, and like it was like seeing this dude just like, oh my god, did he just do that? Holy crap!
Like, did he just bite him? Like
it's like when Eddie Brock is working so hard to keep Venom in check, it's the polar opposite with Carnage. He's like, oh, you want to do? Fuck it, let's do it 3 more times. Let's run it. And I guess that was one of my favorite parts of just seeing the polar opposites just hit. For me, I felt Act 1 did a solid job of introducing us to everything. Act 2 was a little bit on the slower end of things. I felt like they were, I don't know how to explain it. There was a nice little twist in there that I wasn't expecting. And, but Act 2, while it was slower, it did justice for Eddie Brock's character. It fleshed Eddie Brock out, and it like pushed him to where he needed to be. Now, Act 3 is where all the action was, of course, and I thought they just capped it off well. Act 3 in a lot of movies is kind of where we lose it, and I think they just kept the pedal to the metal with this one.
Yeah, and I just want to say that I do get where you're coming from about Act 2 being like the slower act of the movie, but I feel like it was more along the lines of like, because I feel like it's like the stages of marriage, right? Mm-hmm. Like the first stage, it was like, we're fighting a lot and we're arguing a lot, so we have to do something about that. So then Act 2 was like them living separately, and then them being like, am I really better off without this person? And then it's like they find out that like they're not. Even like when Venom goes to the I forgot her name, the shop owner that's in the neighborhood, and
can't spoil it, man. You're spoiling it.
Oh, okay, wait, okay. So then
I wasn't even talking about Venom and Eddie's. You know what I mean? What I meant by I just meant in terms of pure just action within the film itself.
Oh God, yeah. It really did pick up, but
you're hitting it on the spot. I think that would just be perfect to talk about later, because I think, and that's what it's so hard about keeping it spoiler free, because we're not able to talk too much about the story, but in that aspect, like there's a lot that we have to leave out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I just really did enjoy how you definitely understood both of their perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like with a movie like this, because Eddie and Venom they're the same character, but they're two completely different people.
Yeah.
And so, like, Venom was like, you know what? I can do better without you. I'll do blah, blah, blah. And then he does, and he doesn't get anything from it, because it's not the same as when Eddie's there, and Eddie's, like, it's not the same, like, when Venom's not there. And
so, I loved how Anne had to be, like, the in-between for it. I was like, dear God. Because
he's like, what did he say? He's listening. Go ahead.
And then Venom's like, make him beg. Like, oh man, I just love that, because that has to be kicking Eddie like right in the nets. Oh man, poor Eddie.
Yeah, right. He was like, I want him to beg, and I was like, you know what? I feel that, Venom. Same, because
what a mood.
What a mood, because you are a strong, independent symbiote, and you deserve to be appreciated for it. But then I was like, also, baby, we're kind of reaching the end, so we're gonna have to wrap this up a little bit.
Some things to note too. This actually came in second with the highest opening night box sales, following right after Black Widow. And I think that's kind of insane, because Black Widow came out not only in theaters but also on Disney Plus.
Yeah, so, I think it also came in behind Shang-Chi as well.
No, it was in front of that. That actually was third.
Shang-Chi was third.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well,
I just can't fucking I can't pronounce it, so I didn't want to fucking try.
Oh no, it's fine. Shang-Chi did that because, well, Shang-Chi was different because they didn't show Shang-Chi in China at all.
No, I know.
Which, as we know, is like the big, like the bulk of the rest of the movie money.
I'm happy you know that. Not a lot of people know that.
Yeah, and like a lot of people don't understand that either, because like the reason that we don't get like a lot of things or like a lot of characters images is because China doesn't approve of that. Like when everybody was assuming that it was Mephisto in WandaVision, I'm like, they're not going to do Mephisto because he's like the devil, and they don't play that in China, so it's fine. Mm-hmm. But the fact that we're getting all of these movies doing really well, even during a Panic at the Disco, is I feel like companies are going to stop delaying movies now because, and I know some movie studios try to blame what we're going through right now as the reason why the movie didn't do well. And it's like if Shang-Chi and, you know, Black Widow in this proved anything, is that people will go to the movies if they so want to.
Yeah. And I think as long as we don't see any sort of mandates with the Panic at the Disco, I think that good call on that. I think we can continue to see box office sales, you know, start to rise. I mean, Fast and the Furious 9 like killed it. I mean, you know, it really set the tone for a lot, and that is like something that's just been ran in the dirt like a billion times. So anything following suit after that, you know, it's fair game, I think.
Is this really the darkest timeline where we have to thank the Fast and the Furious 100 for
hey, do anything for family?
As and the great Vin Diesel said, "Family, amen."
Family. So finishing thoughts. I think what I'm going to do with this when we put it on YouTube, I'm going to just divide it up in 2 videos. You know, we'll do a spoiler-free video and then a spoiler video. So any finishing thoughts on the movie? Maybe what they could have done better. What do you think they just absolutely killed it with? And where you would like to see it go next?
So what they absolutely killed it with were the performances. I did think Tom Hardy was great as Venom and as Eddie Brock. I feel like what they went through going forward, and then what they realized at the end was very good. Woody as Cletus.
He's so good you don't even remember his name.
Yeah, right. I was like, Cletus is. Wait a minute, no. And Naomi again as Frances was just one of the highlights for me because she really pulled out the stops in pulling off crazy, and I just loved her and Carnage's relationship, and what they could have definitely done better. I still say this, and I'm going to say this, but it didn't make me hate the movie. I still enjoyed the movie, but I still wish that it would have been R-rated. And I'm still hoping that there is an R-rated cut for like 4K Blu-ray.
So what would you want to see? Just more carnage?
Yeah, just literally blood and guts and gore, and like, because I don't know if they did this. I don't know if Carnage can do this. I'm not sure, but I know that. Like, I think it would have been cool. I mean, then again, like, I know that if this would have been like if I were giving ideas, like, the more blood that Carnage causes, the more carnage he causes him to grow stronger. And that's why they got the in certain points where he's like, you know.
So that actually did happen.
Didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it did. Like, a little.
So like, I feel like it would have been like. Okay, that would be for the spoiler part.
I mean, it's not really a spoiler part, but he eats someone and he says, "Time for a power up."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So in an aspect, I wouldn't say maybe the more blood causes the power up, but actually eating someone does. And I think it's the same thing with Venom because of the chemical in the brain. I forgot what it's called. Eddie can't pronounce it. I can't pronounce it.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it. It's
starts with a P.
Yeah, starts with a P. Like the but I did really enjoy the movie anyway. I still really can't wait to see what happens. We'll talk about that in the spoiler part, but non-spoilery, I still enjoyed it. I liked everybody's performances. I liked how everything looked. I liked the parallels between the romance options. Like Eddie and Anne are like, you know, the good ones, and like Cletus and Frances were like the evil. And it was like, first of all, I loved her wedding dress. I'm sorry. Like,
oh yeah, it was awesome.
Like, she was rolling down in a black dress, and I was like, whoa, ma'am, you crazy, but you still know how to dress? Like, but I still think it was a good movie. I definitely did enjoy it. And like I said, like, the R rating would have been better for me. The action was fine. You can tell that, I mean, and like you said earlier, how they were able to push the limits without doing that. But I just don't want it to, and I mean, I know why they did it is because it's more like, you know, they were worried Disney wouldn't want to, you know, oh, we can't make movies with you make R-rated movies. And it's like, but put the businessman hat away and put the nerd hat on. This is Carnage. Like, Carnage is not a kid friendly character.
I mean, I think we're forgetting Deadpool though too. Deadpool definitely is R rating, and I don't think Disney would have any issue working with Deadpool. Like, Deadpool is a moneymaker.
Yeah, and that was my big concern until I actually thought about it, because one of my friends was like, "Oh, they're not gonna do it because they don't make R-rated movies," and I was like, "Yeah, but at the end of the day, Deadpool makes money, and he was R-rated, so they're not gonna literally alienate that fan base." Because like Kevin Feige knew that if he made Deadpool PG-13, that would have like got a lot of people being like, "Nah, we're done. Sorry."
So for me, I enjoyed Let There Be Carnage. I felt the story was okay. I really liked the connection between Eddie and Venom. I liked the story, you know, building and character development. For me, though, there was a lot of like plot armor inconveniences for me. There's many times I was left, and I think that's the thing, though. When you go to watch this movie, you watch it because, and I see this word floating around to describe it, it's stupid fun, and I want to embrace it, because if you watch the movie and you're watching it and you're like, okay, well, you know, this doesn't line up. Why didn't they do this? I think you're going to be able to find those, but I think if you just watch it to have a good time and just don't worry about it, then you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. Because for me, there's a couple times where I'm just like, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but outside of that, I felt it was awesome. For me, though, and, you know, we'll talk about this a little bit later as well, the post credits were almost as good as the movie, if not made the movie, like trumped the movie for me.
Yeah, it's like one of those rare times where, like, the post credit scene is like, and that's what people are talking about versus like the movie itself. And I'm like, but both were good. Like,
no, yeah.
But
yeah, I think for me, for future predictions, you know, I think we're gonna see. I don't know if we're going to see. I don't know. I think this actually would be a perfect time to pivot to our spoiler take on stuff.
Yeah, because, I mean, going forward, I would just like to see them, like, from like a movie perspective, like, you know those kind of movies where you could just tell that they're having fun making it.
Hey, what up, Swifty?
And that translates into like how we see it. I just want them to have more fun. I don't want them to like think about it too much. I mean, think about it, you know, because I mean, it's Andy Serkis, and, you know, Tom Hardy's a really huge Venom fan, and he knows what this means to us. So I just want them to think about having more fun, and I want them to be like, you know, doing a lot more with what they have, because this movie was really fun. It was really well performed, and I think that with more stuff like that, you know, this whole franchise can go really far.
Yeah, and I really think Marvel side of things are setting just a pace that's almost impossible for DC to keep up at this point. And it pains me to almost say this, but when we have to have director cuts fix movies, and then we have to get Snyder cuts and Ayer cuts to fix movies, and
yeah, but the funny thing about that too is, like, we need to have we need to have higher up fixes too, like, because there's so much petty involved at Warner Brothers. It's actually gross.
No, I know you're talking about like with Robert Pattinson.
No, not even that. I mean, like the higher ups, like Walter Hamada, Toby, whatever his last name is, and Anna Sarnoff. Like, they're the opposite of what people who want to make money are. And that's a podcast. I can go off about that. Let's talk about Carnage.
So yeah, let's get ready. We're gonna be hitting the spoiler heavy part of things. So I'm gonna go ahead and update my stream title so people come in and know that there's gonna be spoilers.